Hello, everyone. Once again, this is Dare to Speak. I wanted to make this very important point, and the thing is, I talked about this before, and I did a video on it, but I didn't get that many views, and it was posted. I uploaded it and posted it on YouTube about a little over 6 months ago. And I only ended up getting like about 13 views or possibly 16 at the most, and then it stopped at either 13 or 16, and it lingered for 6 months. So that's when I was not that well known to begin with. I should know because the first four videos that I did when I first started, um, I got I barely got 30 views, and then it just lingered for 6 months. Like I checked it yesterday, and it's still at 30. That's because it was done like 7 months ago, 6, 7 months ago, when I was brand new, when I was just that kind of thing. And and the thing is, what I wanted to talk about, which is and do this new video right now, is the whole idea of people that are naturally born to be criminals or violent or whatever like that. I know there's a great deal of, I know there's a lot of racism towards blacks and Hispanics, and how bad it really is, and how much loathing and so much things pertaining to it. Pardon me. And there's like a rumor going around, some out of reluctance and things like that, and some that are, of course, that are open about their racism, and they say that blacks and Hispanics, especially if they're, because a large majority of them are from the ghetto, that it's more than just environment, that they're just naturally born to be big time losers through genetics. They're genetically born to be criminals, and that kind of thing. Now, I kind of suspected that when I was growing up, because I know that environment plays a role, or the way they were brought up. They had parents that were like, they were not taking the right responsibility of raising them and stuff like that. And that was true. I knew some guys that were gangbangers, like, of course, when I was growing up, and I knew some of their parents, and they were stupid. I mean, they were alcoholics. Some of them were violent, and whatever, that kind of thing, angry at life kind of stuff, and they were so ignorant. However, there was this nagging intuition that slowly started building up, little by little, through the years, that led to a question: do you think they're naturally born that way? That it's inbred? That it's also inbred? That it's not just environment? Could 50% of the reason be because there are naturally it's naturally inbred? That it's hereditary. They inherited through their DNA, genetically born to be criminals. And again, it was like a small intuition that slowly built it up. They got larger as the years went by, throughout my teenage years, throughout my 20s and 30s, and now that I'm in my 40s. I did research on this for about at least a good 8 years. 8 years of just talking to people, reading books, seeing documentaries, going a lot on Google and just finding out, whatever, finding out whatever I could, all this from different sources and whatever. And I came to the conclusion that 50% of the reason why blacks and Hispanics have such a bad reputation, why they're so ghetto and well, not so ghetto, why they're a lot of them are criminals and one of them are like big time troublemakers, thugs, punks, that kind of thing. 50% of it does have to do with the way they were brought up, the environment. I do agree with that. That is nothing that I would dispute. Environment does play a role. However, unfortunately, the other 50% has to do with genetics. They're born with something that is called the warrior gene. And for those of you who don't know what the warrior gene is a gene that someone is born with that gives them a predisposition to become violent, very competitive, very arrogant, and overbearing bullies to get a rise, to get satisfaction. And of course, through environment, it makes it even worse. So that's why there's so many blacks and Hispanics in prison. Um, that's why they got so much of a bad reputation. It's 50-50. And coming from a Chicano myself, a Hispanic, to say something like this, I know there's gonna be a lot of people that would say, "What the fuck are you talking about, man? It's just you don't inherit something like that. It's not genetic. It's just 100% environment or the way they were brought up, in the system, in society, and corruption and things like that." Yeah, yes, that's true. That is part of it, but it's not 100%. And when I explained about the warrior gene, a few people gave me that look like that's just something that's made up. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as a warrior gene. I said, yes, there is. Just do the research on that particular thing. And there's also genetic traits that are criminal, because another way you could tell whether a person is born to be uh, a criminal, they're called, or I mean, something I would call the criminal gene, which is not a actual name for it, but I'm just saying that. Well, there's actual genetic bloodlines, genetic traits that makes a person a psychopathic killer because they're born with an abnormal brain. They don't have enough of the temporal lobe. For those of you who know about the human mind, about the prefrontal cortex, the frontal lobe, orbital cortex over here, and the prefrontal, I'm sorry, the temporal lobe, which is the middle that holds the amygdala in check. Some people are born with very little temporal lobe tissue, or some kind of abnormal type of prefrontal cortex, and of course their DNA bloodline of a psychopath or a psychopathic killer or a troublemaker or a punk, that kind of thing. It's in their DNA, it's in their blood, and also in the brain, their abnormal brain. And through abuse, especially if they grow up in a very bad environment, it gets jeopardized, and then the more of the brain tissue gets damaged, and then they become criminals and they kill people, and it makes it very hard for them to be rehabilitated, to be a productive member of society. It makes it very difficult. So I'm sorry to say it like this. As a Hispanic, I have to tell the truth. 50% has to do with genetics. 50. Now that doesn't mean that every every black and every Hispanic that's in prison has this gene. I'm not saying that. No. There's some that do and there's some that don't. Percentage wise, how many they do compared to the ones that don't, I don't know. Um, I I did hear, I did find out that there was uncertain about how many. That's why I don't know, because there was an uncertainty. But the ones that don't have that gene are able to be rehabilitated. They don't have to worry about it so much. They have some level of sense and reason and empathy. But the ones that do have this dangerous high risk gene in their bloodline, in their DNA, and the abnormal brain, watch out. That's just how it is. And the scary thing is that type of number is multiplying. It has been multiplying for a long time now, for decades. It's scary and it's very sad and disappointing. And I'm not saying that other races don't have it. There's white people that have it, um, especially the ones that are like the Hell's Angels type of bikers. Like, don't, if you look at me the wrong way, I'll fuck you up type of attitude, that kind of thing. And dangerous people. I mean, it could be any race. I mean, this it doesn't. The warrior gene and the psychopathic bloodline and the abnormal brain can be from any type of race: white, black, Hispanic, Chinese, Asian, or whatever. It doesn't matter. In a recent about I would say about a month ago, the last time I checked, about the percentage of races that have they have this gene that are with the bloodline and the abnormal brain and the basically the predisposition of the so-called a criminal gene or the warrior gene for the name I should call it. 35% of Caucasians have the warrior gene or this dangerous criminal gene. Uh, yeah, and 55% of Hispanics, Chicanos, Mexican Americans, Puerto Ricans, doesn't matter what, of Hispanics, 55% of Hispanics have the warrior gene, this criminal dangerous gene and the genetic traits, the whole thing. 68% are African Americans. 68% have this dangerous high risk gene, and the ones that have it the highest, which is 76%, is Italian Americans. Um, Italians, I guess, and right away people start thinking about Jersey Shore and mafia movies and stuff like that. But whatever. Just some people make some sarcastic jokes. But 76% are Italian Americans. So those are the genetics. Those are that's the information that I got. Now, of course, people can dispute that and say that, oh, that's just stupid. Whoever came up with that, whatever. 'Cause that's what I found out, and whoever came up with that is just some asshole who's trying to make an excuse in order to promote racism and possibly genocide. Now, I don't know if I agree with that. Maybe I don't know. I honestly don't know if I agree with that because to me it makes sense, and I don't want to discriminate against anybody. But when you have this nagging intuition that is also possibly could be a genetic predisposition, and then I find out about the warrior gene, and the warrior gene has actually been proven in science to exist. It is proven. So out of serious reluctance, I have to admit to it. It's really 50-50. And for those of you who that are racist against blacks and Hispanics, that would go as far as to say, yeah, bullshit. It's 100% genetics. They're born to be troublemakers, or whatever. Big time racist assholes. The only thing I would say is fuck you. Do your research correctly. That kind of thing. It's not 100%. It's not 100% genetics. 50% have 50% of it has to do with environment and the way they were brought up. So it is 50-50. So anybody that's viewing this right now, who has some kind of a suspicion that what I'm saying is true, I would love to hear any kind of comments. And if there are any questions you want to ask me that I possibly might have left out, I would like to hear them too. And if you like this video, even though it's a very touchy one, I'm not doing this to be an asshole or anything like that. But this is very controversial, and I just wanted to make this message, to get this message out and stuff like that. So, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and things like that, and excuse me, and things like that. And to all of you, take care.